Hi, this is Michael Shirkin, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Pax Americana, a conversation about world affairs, global conflict, military strategy, and anything else that happens to be on my mind. Now, in this case, this video is part 2 of a 2-part video interview that I did with French General Hervé Pierre on the subject of the French military strategist General André Beaufre. In the first part, the previous video, we talked in general about Beaufre's approach and philosophy of military strategy. In this video, part 2, we will focus on the Suez conflict and on the lessons that Beaufre derived from the Suez conflict for military strategy. Thank you. I thought maybe we could change track a little bit, change tack, and talk about Suez. This is something that's been on my mind a lot. I think just because of the headlines, everything that's going on in the Middle East, I keep thinking so much goes back to Suez as a major turning point. And as you describe it in the biography, Suez was also a very, very critical moment for Beaufre. I guess you could say there's two moments for Beaufre that define him. There's 1940, and then there's Suez. So tell us about Beaufre's role in Suez, and then let's get into questions about, well, why was Suez pivotal to his thinking? What did he learn from Suez?
Suez was a trauma for Beaufre, as the fall of France in 1940 was also. And in the book, one chapter, the chapter about the fall of France, is the title of the chapter is The End of the World, and Suez is the end of one word. Why? Because in 1956, as you know, obviously, it was the end of for France or Great Britain thinking themselves as great powers, because the end of the game in Suez has been given by the States and USSR, and it was really the turning point of the way the two main nations in Europe, the great nations in Europe, saw themselves as great nations. So it was really a trauma for both. And when he created the Institut Français d'Études Stratégiques, one of the young students that were with him asked him the question why he had founded this institute, and both answered, I founded the Institut Français d'Études Stratégiques to understand why I win and I lose at Suez. What at the same time I win and I lose. What he said, what he wanted to explain is that tactically on the ground he did the job. He says the usine des eaux, they bet the Egyptian army, and they seize the points on the ground and they reach their objectives, mostly because probably that they could have go to Ismailia and to seize another point on the ground that should have changed the strength balance. But tactically, he thought that he won at Suez. But at the same time, it was a disaster at the operative level, and it was, like you say, main failure for the two European nations on the international stage. So 56 is really a turning point for the European nations. At that time,
this is such a major theme. I was thinking about, how do you win and lose at the same time? I mean, this sort of sums up everything. It sums up Algeria and, well, not Indochina, Algeria, Vietnam, maybe even Afghanistan.
Yes, and this gives something very interesting to both thinking. At that time, he was commanding a division in Algeria, so he was asked to take the command of the French land forces. But as you probably know, there were two commanders for each service. There were one French commander, one British commander for the land forces, and the same for the air, and the same for the navy. So you can imagine the complexity of the operative staff system. That is one point. But what is very, very relevant and very crucial for both is the link between policy and tactics. I mean, the way you can give the sense of the energy or the sense of the war, the sense of the political sense going to the ground, and the actions on the ground going up to the policy level to make the political to attain to gain the political objective. I mean, the reason you go to war and the reason of the war, the reason in the war, as said Clausewitz, but you have to transfer this energy at every level. I mean, the political objective has to be very clear, and that was absolutely not the case in Suez, as you know, and probably that there were so many secrets between the allies, between the Brits, the French, and the Israelis. They didn't share the same objectives, and so it was a very, very, very restricted command perspective, and most of their objective was secret one and were shared by the others. So that there's really a problem in the political sense given to the operations. At the same time, if you have a political sense to the strategy, you have to be sure that this aim is shared with your allies, and that was absolutely not the case. We know now that Foster Dulles, Eisenhower, they were opposed to the principle of this operation, military operation. They didn't want to have this military coup in Suez, and try to convince the Brits and the French to go through negotiations, and they didn't wanted to do that, and they were thinking about military expedition even before the conference that was supposed to find a way to negotiate. So there was this disconnection between the three allies, disconnection with the partners, the great partners. And if you go through the military, what I call accordeon, the military system, and go from policy to tactics, at every level, you have cuts and many reasons why the information going from the top didn't went to the tactical level. So it is true for the political sense, but it is true for the comms, for example, in a very, very concrete way. They didn't have the communication system that make the allies able to speak together. Both was aboard a ship, and the Brit that was commanding the Brit land forces was on another ship, and they didn't have a comm system that makes them able to speak together and to coordinate. Beaufre was the commander of the French land forces in Suez, and he had 2 divisions under his command: the 7 motorized rifle division and the 10 para division. And Massu was the commander of 10 para division. And he asked Massu to seize Ismailia south of Usine des Eaux, Port Said. And he said, you have to take it very quickly because there will be very soon a ceasefire, and you have to take this territorial objective before the ceasefire. And but he didn't really receive a very clear order from the political level, and this is part of the problem, because he came back to the. He was not very clear with Massu. He said, "Try to do something." Then he came back to the boat, to the ship, and he received a message from Paris, but very too late. The message had been delayed because of the problem of comms, and the message in itself was not very clear too. It was to say you have to stop, but if you are able to do something before you stop. So both problems from the sense of the message, it was not very clear, and from the top to the down. And then the comms, because they are not built very consistently, we are not able to transfer the message correctly. You probably know also that there was a very, very bad connection between Cyprus, that was the head of the command, and the ships. Most of the time, Cyprus was like an island disconnected to the rest of the world. They were not connected to Paris and London, or very badly, and they were not connected to the troops. So Suez was probably the worst operation Beaufre has ever made, and it was like a trauma. He was the one to speak about a kind of malediction, Egyptian malediction, and it was why he decided to create the Institut Français d'études stratégiques, to understand why he was able to win and to lose the same day, win at the tactical level, but not at the operative, strategic, and of course, political level. And it is why he was thinking strategy in the consistency of all the chain of command, from the political to the tactical, in both sense, in both directions. I mean, the political sense has to go to the ground, and what the ground is doing has to go up to the political level to make sense.
Okay, so that's one of the lessons for Beaufre of Suez, this idea that you have to have this consistency and cohesion from the political level to the tactical level. Can you point to some other lessons that Beaufre saw in Suez?
So there is a vertical consistency from the political level to the tactical level, and in terms of total or global strategy, there is a need of horizontal consistency. You have to be clear with your allied, engaged in the operation, committed into the military operation, but you have to be very clear, and you have to have the support, what he called the external maneuver. You have to have the support of all the partners to be able to make your military operations making sense on the international stage, not be criticized by your allies after. So there is these 2 points. The other lessons is the tempo. The tempo is the need of speed, of course, during the operation, but the tempo is also the moment you do the things. I mean, there was two perceptions of the way of doing the military operation. From one side, Eden, for example, wanted a kind of strategic bombing, but without harm to the population. It took a lot of time sending message, we're going to bomb. So this gives to the Egyptians the time to organize themselves, and there was not the force of the military surprise. At the same time, the French, they were much more on parachutists, seizing the point very quickly. And so there was two perceptions of the way of doing the operation that was completely opposite. And they do both. It was a mix of two options. Rather than choosing, it was a mix of two options. So this operation had no tempo. It was too late and too speed at the end, and too short. It was really a question of tempo. So a question of tempo, so of speed, a question of connections, of comms, a question of consistency of the staff structures, and a question, of course, of political sense.
If you've made it this far, please consider hitting like and subscribe if you have not subscribed already. Plus, also, if you feel so inspired, please consider sending some money my way, either by hitting the thanks button here on YouTube or by buying me a coffee using the link in the description below. Likewise, you can also choose to become a member to provide even more substantive support to the channel, and you can do that by hitting the membership button here in YouTube. That will guarantee that you will count among the coolest people on the planet, and hey, who doesn't want that? But really, thank you. This kind of support is absolutely essential for my being able to do this channel, and there's plenty more in the pipeline, so thank you very much. Implied in both is a comparison between the Suez campaign and Hitler's maneuvers in the 1930s, specifically with Czechoslovakia. I was wondering if you could lay out sort of how that comparison works in both, and why Hitler provided sort of a master class for how to do this sort of thing, whereas Suez was the exact opposite and thus was a failure.
It was probably the exact opposite because of the question of surprise. As I said before, you have to adapt your tactics to the context. And the fact that the Germans in 1940 took advantage the surprise, of the speed, make the French in very bad positions very quickly. But probably that the Germans, we know today that they pushed too far. And if there was not a complete scramble, a complete disaster of the political, a complete fall of the political French system, probably that Guderian should have some problem in Abbeville, because he was too far from the rear guard. In fact, so he wrote this in his memoir. He said, "Okay, we take the advantage. It was we gain." Advantage from the surprise, but probably that we pushed too far. So it could have been a disaster, but it was not. Suez is the completely opposite, because
I was thinking more of 1938 and Czechoslovakia.
Yes, when both was make the comparison.
Mm-hmm.
In Czechoslovakia, especially in the writing, the writing of 1941, when he was speaking about Blitzkrieg.
Right. So when Beaufre writes about the maneuver d'artichaut, the artichoke maneuver, and also the way Hitler leveraged, sort of prepared the maneuver. There was a political maneuver, an external maneuver, well before the actual military maneuver.
Yes, the fact is, if it's a question, is not specifically the operation is Suez, but it's the fact that you have to prepare the conditions of the operations, and that the operation is only the culminating point of your whole strategy, and probably that the last part of your strategy is easy to gain because everything has been done before, and it is the technique of the artichoke. You can reach the heart of the artichoke because you approach specifically every fold. You retire every fold, and you are able to make the battle decisive because of all the conditions you had before. And it is exactly what was not done in Suez. It was not. It is why I was speaking about the horizontal consistency. There was not a comprehensive approach of the situation, and there was very quickly a military option rather than an understanding of the complexity of the situation, and to be able to make probably the operation being the final cut or the final point of a global strategy. It was absolutely not the case in Suez. What other comparison is very interesting is that in 1967, Beaufre was a journalist, and he was observing the way the Israelian was maneuvering in the vicinity of the Suez Canal in the Sinai, and it was very fascinating by the fact that Sharon was able to seize the point he was not able to take in 1956, and probably because he was able to disobey and to choose to take the tactical option, as Guderian did in 1940 when he didn't obey the orders from the German staff and decided to.
You're speaking of Sharon. I'm sorry, there was the audio went out. So Sharon was able to seize to make a tactical maneuver on his own initiative and disobeying orders at the same time, which is what Beaufre would have wanted Massoud to do.
Absolutely, and there was a sort of comparison that could be made with the behavior of Guderian behavior in 1940, because you probably know that he was close to be under arrest, to have been so far without any order from the headquarters.
General, thank you very much. I think I've taken up too much of your time already. Thank you for being willing to speak to me about your book and about Beaufre. And again, for the viewers, this is mirror image. We're sort of backwards. I'm not entirely sure why, but anyways, this is Beaufre's book. And if you do read French, I highly recommend that you read it. It's an excellent, excellent read. I have no idea how you find the time to write such things, but it's very, very impressive. But thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me about Beaufre.
Thank you very much.
Hi, this concludes the second of my two-part video interview with French General Hervé Pierre on the subject of the French military strategist André Beaufre. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it interesting. If you look in the description, you're going to see my social media links, plus my website, michaelshirkin.com, a link to my Substack, Pax Americana, which is also called Pax Americana. And what else? I guess that's about it. Please, again, if you haven't already, hit like and subscribe and toss some money through Buy Me a Coffee or join me as a member using the membership button here in YouTube. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye-bye.